You know, throughout all of YouTube, I see many people covering the Keplies event, from its missions to its eggs, the skins, the charms. They tend to cover the eye candy of the update, myself included. However, there's an overlooked aspect of the event trying to catch your attention, that being none other than the Nebula notes. See, Dolly's factory isn't only trying to be a video game, it's trying to create a story, an explanation for why things are the way that they are. You see this through their many Pillow Lore comic strips, but they're unfortunately not found in the game. These confidential files are a temporary answer for the lore in-game. It also does quite a good job at building a story behind the Keplies event while maintaining mystery. I'll be going over this page by page in order. If I have to ever explain something that is only found outside of this event, I'll do so and cite my sources. So here's the Nebula files. Starting off, double N-1 is none other than a simple diary entry for Dexter. He makes a note that Dolly has always wanted to explore the outside world and even visit space, which is interesting to start off because it seems like they never leave the factory, and if you're wondering why, it's because Dexter is well aware of the dangers lurking in the factory. I'm referring to the rejects as well as the main culprit being Reject Dolly. Leaving these rejects unchecked could be very devastating for the outside world, so it is imperative for them to stay in the factory at all times, despite Dolly being oblivious to it all due to Dexter's cover-up. If you're wondering why Dexter keeps Dolly from knowing, I'll explain it in short. You see, Dolly emits a special type of chemical known as ambient dream dust. It's basically what gives a life to the characters you know and love. It's very powerful, and under the right circumstances makes beautiful things with the power of imagination. However, what would happen if a being like this undergoes distress, sadness, anger, and so forth? Negative emotions on such a powerful character leads to devastating results. Like in this example, Dexter hints at a great calamity in the past that most likely resulted in the rejects we see today. On a small scale from this comic strip, you could see a little bit of that with Jelly Bell in the background, seemingly unraveling before the display of distress. So now you understand why in double N-1, Dolly never leaves the factory. She only knows the good, but not the bad, and simply put, she can't handle it, and Dexter knows this. This could also be another reason why they don't leave because, as you know, fellow viewers, the world can be beautiful and at the same time a dark place. Having a being see this could lead to devastating results for the outside world. However, Dexter isn't that restrictive on Dolly because he does allow for her to use the telescope. He notes that she uses it even more than he does. Let's move on to double N-4. Dexter makes a note that Dolly has been in her studio for a while. Whenever she's away this long, it means she's designing another powerful plushie. So from the previous entry, Dolly was inspired. In this entry, she's in the process of making said inspiration. Not much to explain here, though it does hint at how Dolly made these other plushies that we use. It's likely she saw a real example and worked with that as a catalyst for her inspirations. Double N-14 is very interesting. Dexter makes note that he has never seen Dolly create anything of this caliber. Keep in mind, the plushie doesn't exist yet, it's only a concept. Yet, he is excited about the potential in said plushie because they would make a perfect leader for the exploration team. What that team explores and does is revealed in the next couple of entries. Remember, we're going in order, so we'll come back to this. Double N-16. By this time, the plushie had already been made. She is noted to be remarkably gifted. However, Dexter fears a possibility of these gifts being used for antagonistic purposes. Despite his theory of this plush being incorruptible, he nevertheless warns her of the dangers and ramifications of other rejects and to not let Dolly ever find out. Double N-17 seems to put a face on this special plushie. Not sure if it's a completed rendition of the plush or an early blueprint. Either way, you could tell that what was created was meant to be celestial. Double N-25 is a continuation of double N-14. We now know what the exploration team is there for. They bring back knowledge of the outside world. This is most likely how Dolly is able to get inspirations and designs despite never setting foot outside of the factory. Of course, you could see yet again Dexter being extremely worried about Reject Dolly. He doesn't want these plushies to fall into the wrong hands. Double N-77 seems to be a distressing entry log. Dexter notices that one of the plushies from the exploration team is missing. It so happens to be the Explorer leader, aka the Celestial plush. He starts worrying that Reject Dolly took her. However, he's still banking on the idea that this plush is incorruptible, but nevertheless, he doesn't want to take that risk and wants to find her as soon as possible. Double N-79, Dexter records a cosmic meltdown that was detected deep in the hazard zones, which, mind you, so happens to be where the rejects are at. This shakes the whole factory, and of course, Dolly, being curious as to what that was, asks Dexter, to which he ends up lying about the situation, again, to protect Dolly's fragile worldview, as well as the safety of everyone else's. He plays it off as though it was a dream dust burst, but Dexter knows it's way more than that. He notes that Reject Dolly took the Explorer leader, and the rest is redacted. My guess is that within these redactions, it explains the process of unraveling. The thing is, we don't really know what that process looks like. The only reason why I suspect the redactions to be this process of unraveling is from this comic strip called Imposter. To make the long story short, Reject Maestro is seeking to create propaganda on painting the Dolly that we know as a villain. Dexter makes it clear that they must shut this show down and remove all these posters before Dolly happens to see it. Maestro, however, being the curious one, asks about the quote-unquote true Dolly as labeled in the poster, to which we see Dexter having a rather unpleasant memory of Reject Dolly, saying she'll unravel them all. Them being the plushies. It's likely that our exploration leader is going through this. Double N-119. We see a sketch of what Dexter has observed through his telescope. It appears that meteors are heading towards the Earth, and on them are these creatures that he can't make out to be. He draws a sketch of their silhouette, but as far as he knows, this could be anything. Of course, we know them to be the Keplies. Double N-208, the Keplies have finally landed. Their power is noted to have caused void holes that rip the zones apart. We actually get to see these creatures have actual intelligence behind them, as they are able to communicate to Dexter. They explain the reason for their arrival, and this ties back to Double N-79 when the cosmic meltdown occurred. The Keplies too have sensed this power. They even go so far as to say that this cosmic energy is even greater than the stars and the quasars. Which, by the way, is absolutely insane. This damn plush generated that much power in a non-destructive way. Now, notably, Dexter thinks that this power is from Dolly, which we'll see in the future to not be the case. Double N-210 is Dexter amazed at Dolly's power, being able to reach the ends of space, which puts into question the power of dream dust. At the same time, though, he even shows fear. If regular Dolly has this potential, then what of Reject Dolly? It's a fair and scary question to ask. Double N-222 is sketches of the Keplies. Dexter seems to be trying to figure out what makes them tick. I like this, because it shows that he is trying his hardest to learn new things in order to benefit the factory. Double N-233, Dexter makes a note that the Keplies are for the most part harmless. Though Dolly likes them, he finds them rather annoying. They also seem to be more on the side of good than anything. Hell, they even help out Dexter in keeping the rejects from Dolly. He also notes that these Keplies brought special relics as rewards for completing their games, which we're all familiar with. Dexter, of course, doesn't like these games, but he sees the potential in obtaining these relics to potentially integrate them into his Dex tech. Double N-234, not much to say here. It's much like Double N-222. Here, Dexter is trying to figure out what these eggs are all about. He even has sketches for them. Double N-236, the Keplies make it clear. They're not here because of Dolly, as Dexter suspected. They're here for the cosmic plushie and warn of a cosmic disaster. The issue is that Reject Dolly has already gotten their hands on her. Under Reject Dolly's belt, she has one of the most unstable rejects to date. The Keplies even show signs of fearing this being. I mean, after all, we're talking about a being stronger than a quasar. Dexter then talks about how difficult it'll be to contain the reject or cure it. I didn't even know that a plushie could be cured. Hopefully we see that explored more in the future. Anyways, despite Dexter being a cold and calculated person when it comes to logic, he even has hope that the plushie can be cured, or at the very least wants the plushie to be cured, since even he notes that it's illogical for that to happen. Double N-245 is another sketch of the Keplies along with the eggs. Not really sure about this one. It doesn't seem like he's studying them. Either he's just drawing them based on what he sees them doing in the clouds with the eggs, or he's drawing based on what the Keplies call home. It's also possible that it could just be Dexter drawing for the sake of drawing. I mean, he has talent after all. And now for the final entry. Double N-556. This one leaps far ahead. There's a ton of gap from N-245 to now. I'll read this one straight off the book. So we have a redaction here. I'm going to put Nebula in here just for it to make sense, since the plushie doesn't have an official name, but since it's called Nebula Notes, I figured it'd be appropriate to give him that name. So, prototypes for Reject Nebula containment systems aren't passing the test. We've only been able to distract the reject so far, allowing her to wreck barrels of dream dust we left out. That won't last much longer. I have another blueprint I'm foolproofing with Rocky and Thim. Hopefully, it works. Otherwise, we'll have to rely on our desperate option. I don't want to think of it. It's worthy to note that thus far, I have not really seen what this quote-unquote desperate option could be. Is it possibly killing the plushie? Would it be telling Dolly the truth and hoping that she doesn't break down in order to use her ambient dream dust to lock away, heal, or even unravel the plush? We don't really know, and I like that cliffhanger. I have a feeling this is going to be a future boss in the game when we're near the finale of the factory story. We have reached the end of the video. I do hope you enjoyed. I am not a lore person at all, but there are times when I do recognize it, and I gotta say, this was pretty interesting. What I like about this story is that it balances things out. It reveals enough info for us to not be in the dark. We can create feasible concepts on what the lore could be heading towards, and at the same time, it's also mysterious enough for us to want to explore more. So with that, I'm going to be calling it here. Goodbye. Goodbye.